Nick Ortolino, and I curated the show here at the Casella Gallery at Wentworth Institute of Technology. We're showcasing work by adjunct faculty and full-time faculty from the interior design, industrial design programs, and the foundation faculty, which have a fine art background. Well, what we wanted to accomplish with the show is to showcase work by full-time and adjunct faculty based around the courses that they're teaching this fall. And so the work that's up in the Casella Gallery draws from the fields of industrial design, interior design, and fine art. And many of the faculty that are exhibiting here work in fine art as part of the foundation program. And I think that's one of the strengths of the program here at Wentworth, is that most of the faculty in the foundations start with fine art, and the students have a one-on-one interaction with those faculty and converse in the basic visual language of sort of form and content.
So the medium is actually a type of plastic called PETG, and it's actually a very typical type of plastic. If you look at most objects that get packaged, they go through a process called vacuum forming, which is a really low-end way to mold plastic. Basically how it works is the plastic comes in, it starts as a sheet form, and it actually gets heated almost like under an oven head. And so you have the sheet, it sort of slides under this oven, and it gets very, very soft, and it starts sagging, it gets really soggy. And what you do is it's on like a trolley, and you pull it out, and there's a table there that looks like an air hockey table with all the little perf holes in it. And you have a mold sitting on this, so it's a three-dimensional representation. And what happens is it either happens two ways. Either the hot plastic sheet gets pulled down over the table, or the table pushes up through it. But once that happens, it pulls a vacuum and it sucks it, like shrink wraps it instantly right in front of you. And then once the plastic cools, it stays in place. So this is basically the process that I use to do this. The reason I chose that medium is because that's the medium that they use for packaging. And that was really the inspiration behind the pieces that I've done. It's really more about, the ideas were centered around packaging. And I thought, if you go to the store, if you go to Walmart, or if you go to Target and you buy this really really nice like MP3 player or CD player, it comes in this really beautiful package. Especially if you look at like what Sony does with their packages, or Nike, or even Apple. And the thought was really, wow, look how much time goes into the design of the package, and look how much time is spent by designers thinking about these things and designing the package. And it's like the first thing that gets thrown away when you bring it home. It never survives. It never survives the initial impact of, it never gets used in a sense. And so I thought, wow, wouldn't it be interesting if the package was the product? I think every designer has 4,000 ideas that they would love to see get made, and they never have the time or the opportunity to do those things. And it's a circumstance that most people don't have the liberty to spend all the time working on projects that will only fulfill their own personal need. So, I think for me, grad school was an opportunity to do that, and I think this project, probably more than most of the projects, I think it was something I did to sort of for self-fulfillment or sort of self-gratification. I mean, in the timeline of my work, I've really been working as a professional now for 9 years, maybe 10 years, and this is 3 years old. And I think, out of the pieces that I've done, it probably most represents the kind of things, if I could do anything in the world kind of work, this probably most represents that type of work.
I think my approach to architecture in general, which is my background and my training, is that I've always approached the design of a structure from the inside out. So buildings are built to house people and their activities, and unless the spaces inside are not accommodating to be able to, for people to achieve their objectives, my thought is the only way to make a successful building is to think about the interiors first, and the exterior building takes its shape from the cues of the spaces inside. So I think this house represents, even though it's a piece of architecture, represents that as well, that it started from thinking about how the user would use the inside of the building, use the spaces. It is also derived or references are made to site conditions, to an owner's interest in views and materials and their interest in something that looks familiar. So it directly informs what I do here in school, in my teaching at school, in the sense that the interiors are of primary importance. Not to say that the exterior is of less importance, but the sculptural qualities of the building on the outside are something I like working on as well. And probably as you're looking at the drawing, what's more evident is the exterior image of the building as opposed to the interior spaces. There are other drawings here that do show the interior spaces that are not in this drawing that would convey those, but that's really where the project started, with a generation of interior spaces first. This house represents probably more ideas that are special to me than would, let's say, a building that I was designing for a client with very specific requests. This was designed with someone who sympathized with the ideas I had and for the site which drove the design of this. So it fits into my, I suppose, maturity of thinking about buildings and architecture in general, and their use or significance in our everyday lives, our social lives.
This is called curly maple, and it's curly maple, solid curly maple. This is one piece here, one board that's been cut and kind of folded over that goes down, and the legs are also solid curly maple. These are machined brass poles, which I machined on the metalworking lathe. They're each one proportioned to the same size as the you know, relative to the drawer size, and the bottoms of the drawers. This is Paducah plywood, which we used in a restaurant, leftover Paducah plywood from a restaurant on Beacon Street, and these are finger joints, which are made on the shaper out of Paducah as well. So it's kind of a curly maple and Paducah and brass, I guess. And those are the materials, and it has a hand rubbed varnish finish. I'll sometimes try to put on a thinking cap and design a piece for or about somebody else and not about myself. So this piece is a lingerie cabinet. It has 7 drawers, each of which could hold, you know, lingerie for each different day of the week. The actual utility of this piece is for costume jewelry. I think most women use it for costume jewelry. But it's very precisely contrived to, you know, be like a miniature vanity. The content of this piece is that it is basically celebrating a ceremony, a ceremonious activity or a ritualistic activity which women might go through as part of their day. Just taking a snapshot at that and trying to say that activity can be pretty cool, can be pretty fun, you know, getting ready to go out, getting ready to start your day, you know, having something in this drawer be distinctly different from, you know, the day before. So it's about ritual. It's about specifically about women's rituals.
To be a screen that I developed a little bit over a year ago. About a year ago, I really purposefully set about to try to find a way to make custom screens to project video onto. in such a way that the screen and the video became more together than they did apart, like they were married to each other in some way. And so I began thinking about marrying drawing with video and video with drawing, experimenting with different kinds of screens. And I hit upon this plastic because it's heavy and it's translucent, and it actually makes a very beautiful surface to project on, both rear and front. And so the next thing was to bring sort of ideas from my past years long ago, being a painter and always drawing, to that, and sort of to collide those two processes and bring them together. This particular piece takes an old, recognized traditional form, traditional genre of self-portrait, and just brings it into the 21st century by using video and projection tools to realize the piece. I'm an evangelist for video. Okay, I found video making very late in my artistic career, and it was a perfect match for me because it's a container in which I can put almost anything. I can draw, I can make little sculpture sets, I can make sculpture and videotape it as little characters. You know, it's a great container for me, for one thing. And number two, especially over the last couple of years as it's become completely digital, puts it in the realm of computers, which puts it in an ever-changing, always something new to learn with computers, and I found that that's actually what I thrive on. Visual language and visual art is absolutely critical to us as a human species. We lose our humanity when we lose touch with art. And that is, in any way that I can be in service to supporting the arts is where I want to be. And teaching young people to find their creative voices is something I'm thrilled to be able to be doing.